Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by the good people at Zero Tackle. And Dan, another great weekend of rugby league has been and gone. The highlights, the lowlights, the breaking news. But there's Dan's news. What have you got for us, buddy?
Let's start with the big one. No jokes this week. Shaun Johnson has announced his retirement. One of the legends of rugby league. I'm going to hand over to you. What are your thoughts? Is it time? What's his standing in the game? Just give me all your Shaun Johnson thoughts.
I think it's a year too late, but SJ will always be a favourite of mine. He was, like, outside of Benji, he was a human highlight reel. So much fun. Could score a try from nothing. Broke Cronulla's heart so many times. Came to Cronulla and broke other teams' hearts. Was brilliant for New Zealand. Got them into a World Cup final that looked like they weren't going to get to in 2013. Stepped through very feeble English defence. I still remember it to this point. I love him. I think he's great. I think he will be remembered for a few negative things in terms of, when the going gets tough. It was always the same. When the going gets tough, Shaun Johnson got going, but not in a good way. But when he came to Cronulla, man, I can't begin to tell you how stoked I was. I enjoyed watching him play. I still loved watching him play now. I thought last year he was absolutely mugged off of a Dally M medal. And I need to reverse that now because a legend of the game has retired. His standing of the game, look, I don't think he's going to be an immortal of the game. But if they ever introduce a Hall of Fame, he's had a Hall of Fame career.
100% agreed. I think they're starting Hall of Fame because I got a little bit on that just a little bit later. Hold your breath. I don't agree that he went a year too late. It's a shame because he's fallen off a little bit this year, and I think coming back from an injury, I don't think he hit the ground running as he'd hoped, and I think he realised, hey, I can't do this anymore. And he's not a young man anymore. But last year, if he'd retired on what was a Dally M winning season, let's be honest, Catalan Ponga played well for about 8 weeks. Shaun Johnson played well for about 16 or 17. That would have been a shame to see him go out like that. I'm glad he got to finish his career at the Warriors. Although I'm a Sharks fan, and when he came to Cronulla, he had one exceptional year, one okay year, and one pretty poor year. I'll take that because the exceptional year dragged us to a final series that we quite frankly didn't otherwise deserve. I will always look upon him as a legend. I think all the negativity, and then there is some there. You can't accuse him of being a big game player on the regular. He had some awful games when the pressure got on. But I think that'll be forgotten because you want to talk about highlights. Shaun Johnson is the highlight. I think it goes without saying that he's the best ever New Zealand's ever produced. I know there's been some legends, and I know Stacey Jones sits right up atop. I think Shaun Johnson, what he did for the Warriors, what he's done for rugby league, what he's done for the Kiwis, just makes him the best of the best. I'm sorry to see him go, but I didn't want him to play on next year and damage his legacy because right now, Johnson's probably a top 5 player in terms of enjoyment I've seen when I put it to the fact that he always took Cronulla apart. He took our pants down that day when we should have just kicked to the corner, and he ran 60 metres untold, beat about 55 players and scored. He could have done a loop-de-loop and a backflip and scored. He was that bloody good. Sad to see him go, but what a man.
Yeah, well, we get to say that we've enjoyed 3 of the best Kiwi halves of all time in Stacey Jones, and as Stacey Jones exited his peak, we got Benji Marshall, and as Benji Marshall exited his peak, we got Shaun Johnson. And between the 3 of them, they've brought just so much joy. I can't begin to express how good Shaun Johnson was to watch, how bad it was when he cut your team apart, how great it was when he played for your team. And then recently we've been on the wrong end of some Shaun Johnson brilliance, like last year when Cronulla scored the first try and he just decided that he would score 44 unanswered points like that.
Brilliant. So Shaun Johnson, amazing career. Looking forward to the next few weeks. We'll be there to say goodbye to him when he comes to Shark Park. Sounds like a lot of fans that aren't Cronulla fans have snaked some tickets to cheer on Shaun Johnson. That says everything about his standing in the game. From a legend of the game to a bloke who could be a legend but probably won't be, and he's got only himself to blame, Tevita Pangai Jr. off to Catalans. Who saw that coming?
I thought he was going to Souths.
Yep. In the last hour, Peter Bedell has dropped in that he is scorned the great Wayne Bennett, and he's off the Catalans to play in the Super League, and I am just at a loss.
Man, you've blindsided me on this one because I did. Well, I mean, I've been off social media for the last couple of hours. It's always nice to have a little bit of a detox. Wow, I did not see that coming, and I think. Oh, we were only talking about it last week about him going to South and what that meant to their pack, and wow.
I can't believe it. It seems if there's two decisions, he's going to find the wrong one every time. And I mean, you go to South Sydney and you play under Wayne Bennett, who's resurrected a career that was over. He retired and went to boxing. Now he's back again. He's playing good football. I thought he was going to South. I thought he was going to be their linchpin middleman next year, and we'd finally see the best of him. And he said, "No, I'm going to England." I think he'll kill people over there. I think he's going to be the best forward in the game by a mile. But I'm a little bit disappointed, to be totally honest. I was looking forward to seeing what he could do next year.
It's a great bit of marketing for Tevita Pangai Jr. though, because if he goes over to the Super League and wins a Man of Steel, he's got bargaining power to come back because he's only a young kid.
I think he's going to win a Man of Steel. I think he's going to be the best forward they've ever seen if he reaches his potential.
I mean, if he just runs hard once, they are not going to be able to stop. Like, that's a huge signing for Catalans. Don't forget they had the marquee spots up for grabs because they have lost some players, and they probably could have paid. Well, obviously they have paid him more than South Sydney could offer, and you know, Tevita's probably looked at it and gone, "Oh, they're still only paying me on what ifs and brain snaps, whereas Catalans are giving me card hold cash." I love it. I wish he'd gone to Leeds, but I love that move.
Like, he's backing himself, and he'll skittle some forwards over there. Do not get me wrong. Anyone that watches the Super League, it's fun, but the quality just isn't there.
I mean, you and I go mental when Blake Brayley throws crash balls. But if you are the Catalans Dragons, get yourself a hooker that can throw a crash ball to Tevita Pangai Jr. That's a try a game. Like, put your money on Tevita Pangai Jr. to score 20 tries.
He's gonna top the try scoring, and he's gonna run about 7 meters and skittle blokes. I'm excited, but I'm real selfishly. I was hoping he'd go to South. I thought this was gonna make him what he was. He's got the boxing out of his system. I feel like he's on his last go this time, and he's like, "No, I'm going to England." Good on him, but what is going on?
No one's ever accused him of being bright. This is incredible. I'm stunned, speechless, Dan. I can't speak.
No, it's fake. What a moment. Good luck to Vita. Big fan of the show. Hope you guys are all over there. I'm an unabashed fan. Look, something I wasn't a fan of is the fact that Casey Batcher is now banned from officiating games in which South Sydney play in because her husband, Gavin Badger, works for the club in some capacity. I don't know exactly. I believe he's a referee. A link between the two, or the consultant or something. Couple of questions. One, why did it take him so long? Because the NRL have come out and said they didn't know that he worked for them when anyone who watches a game can see him sitting in the box. Mm-hmm. Two, it was all right when it was at the West Tigers. Mm-hmm. Why does it matter now? And three, how do I get a ban from Cronulla games?
Very good. The first one, I had no idea Gavin Badger worked for South Sydney until someone tweeted, "Why was Cronulla's tries taken off from?" They said because the video referee's husband works for Souths. That's when the conspiracy theory came out. Look, in all honesty, the first try that everyone's going on about from from Cronulla, it wasn't a try. He dropped that. I think the obstruction was a poor call though, because Cam Murray ran into Talakai intentionally and fell over. That's a discussion for a podcast later on tonight. I don't think, if the NRL didn't know that he was working for South Sydney, then they're idiots, but we already know that. The second part to your point was, why was it okay for Wes? It's not like she could give him a leg up anyway. And the third part, how do we get her banned from Sharks games? I think she's doing herself no favours, and pretty soon, hopefully, she's out of it. So, who cares?
Yeah, look, on a serious note, if the NRL didn't know, then that's a humongous error on the NRL's part. I don't think Casey and Gavin need to go to the NRL and say, "Hey, this is what's happening," because it was cleared at the Tigers. Because there's been articles come up during the day, yesterday by the time this drops, that said it's been cleared, they're happy with it. Not for one single second am I accusing Casey Badger of anything. one, I don't think she's a good enough referee to get decisions purposely wrong. And two, there's no way that happens. It's the same as you or I going in as Sharks fans growing up and putting that aside. There's always going to be thoughts, but when it comes down, I have no doubt they're doing the best they can. My issues with the referees are that they're not very good, not that their husbands are consulting for South Sydney.
And this
Said, Terry, it should never have been a opportunity for conspiracies because the NRL should have seen this coming and sat it down 2 years ago.
You only need to have a look at the try she allowed in the NRLW on Saturday afternoon to Parramatta to realise that she's a hopeless referee and it's got nothing to do with her husband being employed at another club. She's just not very good.
No. And I cannot believe that there are people out there saying that, one, there's a conspiracy. There's no conspiracy. And two, that she shouldn't be sat down from this. You never, ever, ever give anyone a chance to jump to that conclusion. Seems so simple.
Just quickly, right? It's even if there was a conspiracy, in 2022 the West Tigers came last, and in 2024 South Sydney are coming 15th. So if there is a conspiracy, they're doing it horribly wrong.
Needless to say, something I think they're doing right, mate, is their two coaches are going to the Hall of Fame, Wayne Bennett and Jack Gibson. They're the obvious two.
Oh yeah, and Craig Bellamy will join them the minute he retires. Jack Gibson, largely considered the greatest of all time pre the full professional era. Wayne Bennett, now being challenged by Bellamy, I think, but arguably the greatest coach of our generation for the time being. It's only the right call. Like I've heard people throw up other coaches' names. No, it's them two.
These are the two. The inaugural two are an important two, and these are the two. I'm gonna throw a couple of names at you. Mal Meninga. Now,
No.
do you don't want to hear me out?
Go.
He's overseen a dynasty, fair enough, that no one has ever matched or come close to matching since with Queensland.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with Mal Meninga and everything to do with the players that he had at his disposal and the coaching stuff that he put around him. You only need to have a look at how shunky he was at Canberra. No.
Perfect. I want to throw... I was going to say Brad Fittler as a joke, but I just can't do that in all seriousness. Obviously, Craig Bellamy is going to get in. We're not even going to discuss that. What about Ivan Cleary, mate? If he retires
Eventually, yeah. He's the first coach of the modern era to go three-peat. He's the first coach of the modern era where there's a harsher salary cap. I know there's more money to spend, but more money means bigger contracts. Mm-hmm. And he is getting his players... If you were to turn around and say, list the players that they have lost since the 2020 grand final, list them, and to turn around and go, they're probably the favourites to the minor premiership, they're absolutely the favourites to the premiership, that's 4 in a row, and you only need to have a look at the next spawn of Avengers in the McLean brothers. In that, their third string fullback was man of the match on debut. Now, I know it was Newcastle, but he is awesome. And now... you're talking about Dane Laurie, who was a failed fullback at the West Tigers. Looks like he's the odds-on favourite for the number 6 spot next year. Ivan Cleary lost Appy Coruscant and won a premiership with Mitch Kenny. And not only did that, he turned around and said, Mitch, you'll be first try scorer in a grand final.
It's ridiculous.
He is I know people are talking about this Penrith team, blah, blah, blah. They haven't signed a legit big-name player, right? They honestly haven't. They were signing your dregs like Paul Momirovski, and they gave Tevita Pangai Jr. But Scott Sorensen was cast away from Cronulla, told to go and work back on the docks of Botany because we just he's a rep footballer, and that's not a byproduct of the system. That's a byproduct of Scott Sorensen taking his work ethic under the tutelage of Ivan Cleary, getting into the New Zealand team and being awesome. Because you can always tell when someone's a byproduct of a system if they're no good in a rep game outside of it. Scott Sorensen's been amazing for them. Ivan Cleary will definitely go down as a Hall of Fame coach. And if Penrith keep this trajectory and he keeps himself up there, he's going to go down in that conversation with Wayne and Bellamy.
I was going to say, is he there yet? I honestly think, and I'll get quoted for this and I'm fine, that Cleary's the best modern day coach.
Yes.
Hasn't had the best career, because that's Wayne Bennett. That's undisputed. I would put Bellamy right there behind him. There's one. If you were to give me a 1A and a 1B, I'm not arguing with that. But I think Bellamy's just a touch behind. I think if Bellamy wins the title this year, I think you can start talking to him at the same. I think Cleary, though, in 10 years' time, is going to be the undisputed number one. Even if they only win 1 or 2 more titles, and I say only because they're looking like 3 or 4. They've lost. I mean, you talk about the players. Your Crichtons, your Kickows, your Burtons. They're going to lose Luai next year. They're going to lose James Fisher-Harris. And they're still, at the moment, in the early betting markets, the favourites for next year. Because, as you said, the next set of Avengers coming up. They lost Stephen Crichton and they put May in. May went off the boil and they flicked him and they bought Alamotti in, who, let's face it, was too bad for the Bulldogs last year. That's saying something. He turned to a decent football and then they go, actually, we're going to get this younger kid with more upside. Like, are you kidding me? They're still annoyed that they lost, young Pollard to Cronulla and Ison, who look like they might be the next stars of the game. They were in that system. I'm so glad that Gibson and Bennett are 1 and 2, but I'll tell you what, I don't think the discussion's real hard in that it's Bellamy and it's Cleary next. Now, sticking with the coaching theme, Terry, I'm going to ask you a question. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek, but also not really. Dragons and the Bulldogs play this weekend. Does the winner claim Coach of the Year honours?
No. I think ladder position has to come into it a little bit. But you can make a great case for Shane Flanagan without that if the Dragons make the finals, because they would have gone from 16th to 8th. And that's a bigger leap than what the Dogs will have made unless the Dogs somehow finish second. So I think Flano's got a real good case to be the Coach of the Year. However, I still think it's Cameron Ciraldo, because Cameron Ciraldo has less skin in the game than Flanagan has. And let's face it, Flanagan was looking like he was going to be a lifer at Cronulla before circumstances happened. He's taken his time out of the game. He's gone and done some consulting. He was a really good commentator. He got himself back into the coaching gig now. And he hit the ground running quicker than I thought he would with a really dross team. Ciraldo has had a little bit more time to build, but less experience. And this year, no one apart from biased Dogs fans had them in the top 8. And you can go back. You can quote me on that one. Go back and have a look at your Daily Telegraph, your Sydney Morning Herald. Go back and have a look at the NRL.com pundits who picked the top 8. No one had the Dogs in there.
Do you know where Fox Sports had them in the preseason? Where they had them?
14th.
It was 17th.
Last.
Came out today. A lot of the Dogs fans are getting on it and enjoying it now, and good on them. Go for it.
Yeah. Look, I make a higher case for Ciraldo just because Flanagan has runs on the board. But I would sit down and listen to you talk all day. But if you were to say to me, it's Shane Flanagan because they're going from 16th to finals, I'm not going to fight you.
I think these are the two. I think if Craig, because the way the Storm were going and it looked like they were going to put 6 to 8 points on Penrith, you kind of go, can you really take it off him? Because he's beaten the greatest team of all time by 6 to 8 points. It's now only 2 points.
And they play each other.
Yeah, I think even if they hold on to the minor premiership, I don't think the gap's big enough to overcome what the other two have done. Ciraldo.
Shane Flanagan has overcome St George Illawarra.
He has, and that side, let's be honest, we had him last, confidently. The last couple of years we picked last, they played prelims, and this year we're like, well, we don't need to worry about that. Still on. Unlikely, but it's still on. So maybe the haunt continues. But I love what he's doing at the Dragons. I hate it as a Sharks fan, but as a rugby league fan, I love it. I love what Ciraldo is doing at the Bulldogs. So scenes, apart from the negativity, which we're not going to touch on, the scenes at Belmore were downright incredible. We've seen Belmore games that have had like 7,000 people there and they're just going through the motions. That was a legitimate return to Belmore and I loved every minute of it. Either of those two are absolutely fine by me. I think Bellamy's out of the running now, although he's got Melbourne to potentially win the minor premiership, missing Pappenhausen for 8 weeks and Cam Munster for almost the whole season. So I can hear an argument for the great man, but I think Ciraldo and Flanagan, I'd like to go to both of them and say, look, Saturday, Sunday, whenever the game is, it's all on the line here, just for the lols. From something I love to something I hate, Terry, and this is a bugbear of mine. Justin Olam sent off. The West Tigers said, we're going to fight this. Then Olam said, nah, I need surgery. And they said, never mind. They should have to go and fight it out of principle and cop the extra weeks for wasting everyone's time.
Well, he's out for the year anyway. You could go and give him an extra 3 weeks. Doesn't matter.
4 weeks, though, Terry, for a clear send-off. I know some people have got into my messages and said, oh, you don't know rugby league, blah, blah, blah. If it's not a send-off, it's a sin bin, and he's copping 4 weeks anyways. What were the Tigers thinking fighting it? Was it just who cares?
Look, I think it just came out of frustration that was the correct call, but I think it came out of frustration that Isaac Tungo didn't go to the sin bin. There was what's his name? Tana Milne on Jesse Ramian, where Ramian had to go off for HIA, but Milne stayed on the field. That was a sin bin. So I think the Tigers got a little bit frustrated with that and said, well, we're going to go and challenge the grading. We're going to go and challenge it. Now, you couldn't challenge it. He didn't hit him in the face because he hit him in the face. It's as simple as that. Like, no matter what still shot you show, he hit him in the face. Mm-hmm. Right? Direct and forceful, out of the line, big guy, had everywhere to aim for, aimed at his face, got it. Congratulations. But it's come out that he's got shocking knees and he needs surgery on them. I don't really care. Like, you have until... You have until like Monday 6 o'clock to put your appeal in as to whether you're going to cop it or not. They just said nah, just take out the no contest and 3 weeks it is. The problem with the Tigers, they love to play their bullshit through the media.
Yeah, it's true.
Just keep quiet. No one needs to know what you're doing until you do it.
That's fair. I hate this. You can't have it both ways. If you said you're going to fight, go fight it. Make your point. They were all full of piss and vinegar and we're going to fight this. This is an injustice, blah, blah, blah. No, he's injured. Don't worry about it. Go and fight it and get the downgrade. If you lose, who cares? He's going to miss every game anyways. Go and make your point. Win something. If you're so full of conviction, no, he's injured. Don't worry about it. It just says to me they got their chest up and then they thought, this isn't worth it after all. After saying all weekend we're going to fight this and we're going to justice for all, and the fans are rah-rah, and they message people that write for websites and threaten them because it was such an egregious, he's injured, don't worry about it. It's all good. Well, what are that club doing? Seriously, I said during the year I thought they were doing everything right. It seems like every clown decision they can make, they're like, do. It's becoming frustrating again. I honestly thought they were better than this, and it drives me crazy that they had it both ways. Pick a lane and stick to it, Tigers. I was hoping that Justin Olam had a shoulder injury from dislocating that bloke's jaw, because at least there would have been something good coming out of this. Couple of knees, obviously that's not funny. That's going to cost him his entire off-season. But if they said to Olam, oi, thanks, but see ya, I think they're well within their rights, just quietly. And last but not least, bit of rumour, and dare I say innuendo. Jason Ryles, who a couple of weeks ago I said right here on this show was doing a good job making all the right decisions. Nathan Brown is linked to his assistant manager role. I want to go on record and say if that's his first major decision, they've made the wrong call.
I didn't hear that. So is it assistant coach?
Assistant coach. And it's only rumour at this stage. I don't know whether to believe it, but I've seen it linked enough that I was like, what the hell, let's run with it.
I think Nathan Brown has worked at Parramatta before, overseeing some... times. What's that?
Probably like 15 times. He's been at every club because he keeps getting sacked for being terrible.
Yeah. It's interesting regarding Nathan Brown because he's quite highly regarded in developing junior players. And you have a look at some of the direct that he had up at Newcastle. But then when they turned it around, it was with the players that he promoted and he just said, you know what, like the Tigers are doing now, we're going to get spanked for a couple of years, but then you guys will be good and people will just go, oh, wow, maybe your system does work. There are worse coaches out there than Nathan Brown that you can get as an assistant, right? As an assistant, he's just sitting there, he's setting up training, he's putting, he's laying the field out, laying the markers, whatever. Ultimately, the decisions come down to Jason Ryles. Brownie will have no say in recruitment. He'll have no say in team selections unless Ryles is really getting something wrong, like saying I'm going to play Regan Campbell-Gillard on the wing. He's going to have no say in the big day-to-day runnings of it. He's just going to get a list as if he was a janitor and say, there's your jobs, away you go. I like it in the fact that you're getting a rookie coach with someone who has NRL experience. And I have a look at, Craig Fitzgibbon coming to Cronulla, for example, and we had Josh Hannay, who has been a bit part caretaker coach, and we had Stephen Price, who hasn't really been a good NRL coach, but he's been a decent assistant coach. But the other people around him, like Daniel Holdsworth and all that, it's not the experience that you kind of want for a rookie coach. So as I said, I think there's worse that you could do. It's just you kind of want to keep Nathan Brown on a leash. You don't want to keep giving him leeway. You just want to hold that nice and tight and just stick him right next to you, but then tell him to go and do his job.
I think there just needs to be a total fresh look at Parramatta. Anyone that's ever worked there is disqualified. It hasn't worked for how many years now? They brought this new guy in. I thought he had fresh ideas. If he's going back to Nathan Brown, I say in jest, of course. I hope he does well because despite the crap I talk on social media, it's all for lols. I want all the clubs to do well because the game's better and it makes my life a lot more enjoyable because I hate talking negatively about stuff. It winds me up, ruins my day. All Parramatta to stop being terrible.
So Nathan Brown was the Elite Pathways coaching director and left in November 2023 to move back closer to his family, and he's now going to be back at Parramatta as an assistant coach in November 2024.
I don't know whether to believe this. It just sounds so ridiculous.
The headline on this, I just quickly Googled that. The headline is, I need people I can trust. Ryles looks to bolster new look Eels coaching staff with Nathan Brown.
Okay, I suppose if you trust him, but I mean, they need something different. They need some fresh ideas. They need some new blood.
Yeah, he's people are saying, now don't forget, it wasn't Ryles the person that Brownie slapped? Wasn't it Barrett and Ryles?
I know it was Barrett. I don't know. If please be.
Nathan Brown slap.
Here it is.
Who did he slap? He slapped Trent Barrett. And who was Barrett talking to? No, it's Dean Young.
That would have been awesome. Well, Dean Young's another player, another one that I heard may be interested in that role. Look, he's probably damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, let's be honest. There isn't going to be a whole lot of people putting their hand up to assistant coach at Parramatta, but I just want something new. I'm sick of this. It's like in the Premier League. Every time they sack a coach, Sam Allardyce comes in for 6 weeks and gets sacked. I'm just... Someone new, please.
Yeah. All the old dreck comes back, yeah.
Pick us. But anyways, good luck to every team. I hope you all make the grand final.
Everyone, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by the good people at Zero Tackle, your one-stop shop for all things rugby league. It's got the up-to-date news, transfers, contract situations, innuendo, speculation, the best independent writers in the planet, including my colleague and co-host, Dan Nichols, who seems to put out hit pieces these days and just get views upon views and negativity upon negativity, and you feast on it. So tell me, Dan, what are we eating this week?
Look, I do, but I don't want to put negativity out there. I wrote some of the most positive stuff about the Tigers, and no one cared. And then last week I wrote, hey, you guys aren't refereed any different. And people lit torches and effigies in the street. Please, positivity. I haven't cleared this to Scott, but I'm going to put it here so he has to say yes. I'm doing the top 10 highlights of Shaun Johnson's career because I want to go watch the highlights of his career. So, Scott, you're probably viewing this when it happens. Get ready for that. That's coming your way.